Commander Vex'thul clicked his mandibles in what he considered supreme satisfaction. The war room of the Dominion's flagship, the Decimator, hummed with the confident energy of pending victory. For 3 solar cycles, his fleet had been systematically crushing the pathetic resistance of the third planet in this backwater system. Earth, they called it. How quaint. Report, he barked at his tactical officer, Lieutenant Kor Maz, whose 6 eyes gleamed with anticipation. Sir, their largest military installations have been neutralized. We estimate complete planetary surrender within 2 rotations. The humans are, surprisingly persistent, but utterly outmatched. Vex'thul's throat sac inflated with pride. Another species added to the Dominion's collection. Another world stripped of resources and converted to fuel the Empire's expansion. The humans had shown more spirit than most, he'd give them that. Their primitive weapons had actually managed to scratch the paint on a few of his smaller vessels. Adorable, really. Excellent. Begin preparation for the final bombardment. I want their capital cities reduced to, sir. The communications officer, a nervous creature named Pip Lawn, interrupted with trembling appendages. Incoming transmission from the human leadership. They're requesting negotiations. Vex'thul's mandibles clicked in amusement. Negotiations? How predictable. Very well, patch them through. Let's hear their pathetic pleas for mercy. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a modest chamber where 3 humans sat around a simple table. The sight was almost comical. No ornate throne room, no displays of wealth or power, just 3 bipedal creatures in what appeared to be everyday clothing, looking as calm as if they were discussing the weather. Greetings, said the woman in the center, her voice steady and professional. I am Dr. Emma Hartwell, representing the United Earth Council. These are my colleagues, Director James Morrison and Dr. Lisa Park. Vex'thul leaned forward, his massive frame casting shadows across the bridge. I am Commander Vex'thul of the Galactic Dominion. You have requested this communication to discuss your surrender terms, I presume? Actually, no. Dr. Hartwell's response was so matter-of-fact that Vex'thul blinked all 4 of his eyes in sequence. We're here to discuss your withdrawal from our system. The bridge fell silent. Even the ship's ambient humming seemed to pause in shock. Vex'thul's throat sac deflated slightly. Excuse me? Our withdrawal? Yes. We understand there's been a misunderstanding. You see, we've been studying your species for some time now through intercepted communications. Your translation protocols are quite fascinating, though somewhat limited. Dr. Park leaned forward slightly. The issue is that your translators have been providing you with rather incomplete information about our capabilities. We thought it might be helpful to clarify a few things. Vex'thul's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of growing irritation. Incomplete information? Your primitive vessels barely register on our sensors. Your weapons are laughably outdated. What possible capabilities could you? Oh, those weren't our weapons. Dr. Hartwell interrupted with a small smile. Those were our children's toys. We let the kids play with them first, you know, to see what you were made of. Children's toys? Vex'thul's voice cracked slightly. Director Morrison nodded pleasantly. The orbital defense platforms you destroyed, training simulations for our elementary school students. The fighter jets that engaged your scout ships, remote-controlled models operated by teenagers in their spare time. That's impossible, Vex'thul stammered. Your intelligence reports clearly indicate. Your intelligence reports, Doctor. Park interrupted, were compiled by our local community theater group. They've been having quite a bit of fun with the whole primitive species performance. Susan, our lead actress, particularly enjoyed playing the role of terrified military commander. She's up for a regional award, you know. Vex'thul's throat sac began to quiver. You're lying. This is some desperate psychological warfare tactic, is it? Dr. Hartwell's expression remained perfectly calm. Tell me, Commander, have you noticed anything unusual about your fleet's performance lately? Any systems malfunctioning? Weapons not firing quite as expected? Now that she mentioned it, Vex'thul had been receiving reports of minor technical difficulties. Navigation systems occasionally showing incorrect readings, communications experiencing brief delays, Some weapons systems requiring multiple activation attempts. Nothing serious. Just annoying glitches. How did you? Oh, we've been inside your network since the first day you arrived, Dr. Park said cheerfully. Your cybersecurity is adorable. My 12-year-old nephew could have cracked it with a basic tablet. We've been watching everything you do, listening to everything you say, and making small adjustments to keep you entertained. This is preposterous. Vex'thul slammed his clawed fist on the armrest of his command chair. And even if you had somehow infiltrated our systems, you couldn't possibly. Lieutenant Corps Maz, Dr. Hartwell said suddenly, addressing Vex'thul's tactical officer directly. Would you mind checking the status of your main weapon batteries? Corps Maz looked confused but complied, his 6 eyes scanning the readouts. Sir, the weapons are showing offline status, all of them. But that's impossible. They were fully operational just moments ago. Now check your shield generators. Dr. Morrison suggested helpfully. Shields are down, sir. All defensive systems are reporting critical failures. Vex'thul's throat sac was now pulsing erratically. This is a trick. Some kind of advanced jamming technology. Oh, it's not jamming, Dr. Hartwell said with the same pleasant tone one might use to discuss the weather. We've simply taken control of your systems, your weapons, your shields, your life support, your navigation, everything, really. You're essentially flying in a very expensive metal box at this point. That's not possible, Vex'thul whispered, but his voice lacked conviction. Would you like a demonstration? Dr. Park asked. We could shut down your artificial gravity for a few minutes, or maybe dim your lights. Oh, I know. She turned to someone off-screen. Marcus, play that song they hate. Suddenly, the bridge was filled with what could only be described as the most irritating sound in the known universe. A combination of high-pitched whining, rhythmic thumping, and what sounded like several small animals being tortured. Every alien on the bridge immediately clutched their auditory organs in agony. Make it stop, Vex'thul roared. It's called Baby Shark, Dr. Hartwell explained over the cacophony. Our children love it. We thought you might enjoy experiencing human culture. Please, turn it off. Dr. Park nodded to someone off-screen, and the horrible sound ceased. There, much better. Now, where were we? Oh yes, your withdrawal from our system. Vex'thul's mandibles were chattering uncontrollably. You can't do this. The Dominion has protocols, we have reinforcements. An entire battle fleet will arrive within. Battle Group Tornell? Dr. Morrison consulted a tablet, led by Admiral HFY. They're currently experiencing what your people call engine difficulties about 40 light years from here. Something about their hyperdrive cores developing an unfortunate tendency to hiccup every time they try to engage faster than light travel. And Battle Group Zulmar, Dr. Park added, is dealing with a fascinating computer virus that's convinced their navigation systems that every destination is actually a black hole. They're currently flying in very careful circles, afraid to go anywhere. But how Vex'thul began. Oh, we didn't just infiltrate your ship, Dr. Hartwell explained. We've been inside your entire communication network for months. Every message, every order, every tactical plan, we've seen it all. Did you know Admiral HFY keeps a diary? It's quite touching, actually. He writes poetry about his pet screecher. Vex'thul slumped in his command chair, his throat sac now completely deflated. This is impossible. You're a primitive species. Our scouts confirmed it. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Well, Dr. Morrison said thoughtfully, you're not wrong about the centuries part. It's just that you've got the direction backwards. You see, we stopped using the kind of technology you're so proud of about 300 years ago. We moved on to more elegant solutions. What do you mean? Dr. Park smiled. Tell me, Commander, when your people first developed space travel, what did you use for fuel? Refined trilithium crystals, of course. Every civilized species uses. Right. And when you developed computers, you used quantum matrices? Yes, naturally. It's the most efficient method, and for faster-than-light communication, you use subspace transmission arrays? Of course. What else would we use? Dr. Hartwell nodded sympathetically. That's exactly what we thought you'd say. You see, that's the problem with being part of a galactic empire. You all end up using the same basic technologies, following the same development paths. It makes you very predictable. We took a different approach, Dr. Morrison continued. When we discovered that trilithium was toxic to our biosphere, we developed fusion technology instead. When quantum matrices proved too unstable, we invented biological computers. And when subspace proved too vulnerable to interference, we created something you've never seen before. What? Vex'thul's voice was barely a whisper. Quantum entanglement communication networks, Dr. Park said. Instantaneous, undetectable, and completely impossible to intercept or block. We've been using them to coordinate our response to your invasion across the entire galaxy. Vex'thul's eyes widened. Across the galaxy? I see. Oh yes, Dr. Hartwell said casually. Did you think Earth was the only world where humans lived? We've been spreading out for quite some time now. There are human colonies in 17 different star systems within Dominion space. They've been waiting for you to try something like this. You're lying. Am I? Lieutenant Corps Maz, would you mind checking your long-range sensors? Specifically, look for any unusual readings from the Kepler 442 system. Corps Maz's hands trembled as he worked the controls. Sir, I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system. Multiple contacts, size unknown. But the power outputs are. He paused, his voice breaking. Sir, their reading is larger than our entire fleet. That would be our friends in the Kepler system. Dr. Morrison explained. They're not particularly warlike, but they do get upset when people threaten their neighbors. The energy signatures you're detecting are their mining platforms. They've been converting asteroids into strategic resources for the past 50 years. Mining platforms that big? Vex'thul squeaked. Well, they needed to be big enough to process entire moons, Dr. Park said reasonably. You can't build a proper space elevator with small equipment. Space? Elevator? Oh, you don't have those yet? Dr. Hartwell looked genuinely surprised. They're quite useful for moving large quantities of manufactured goods between orbital shipyards and planetary surfaces. Much more efficient than shuttles. Vex'thul's world was rapidly crumbling around him. Orbital shipyards? 16 of them, each capable of producing 1,000 vessels per standard month. They've been running at full capacity since we detected your fleet's approach, but that's impossible. No single world could support that level of industrial output. You're right, Dr. Morrison agreed. That's why we don't use just one world. The Kepler system has been completely industrialized. Every planet, every moon, every asteroid. It's all part of one massive manufacturing complex, and that's just one system. Dr. Park added helpfully. The Gliese 667 system specializes in research and development. They've been working on some fascinating new technologies. Would you like to hear about their latest project? No, Vex'thul whispered. No, I don't think I would. They've been developing what they call reality anchors. Dr. Hartwell continued as if he hadn't spoken. Devices that can lock the fundamental constants of physics in a specific region of space. Very useful for preventing enemy fleets from using faster-than-light travel. You mean you could trap us here? Oh, Commander, Dr. Morrison said with a gentle smile, we already have. The bridge fell silent, except for the quiet hum of machinery and the increasingly rapid clicking of Vex'thul's mandibles. Finally, he managed to croak, What do you want? That's simple, Dr. Hartwell said. We want you to leave. All of you. Not just this system, but all human systems. We want you to update your star charts to mark human space as off-limits. And we want you to spread the word to every other species in the Dominion that humans are not to be bothered. And if we refuse? Dr. Park consulted her tablet again. Well, let's see. Our friends in the Ross 128 system have been working on what they call stellar engineering. They've figured out how to make stars burn hotter, cooler, faster, or slower. They've offered to demonstrate their capabilities on the Dominion's home system. You wouldn't dare. We wouldn't want to, Dr. Morrison corrected. But we would if necessary. You see, Commander, you made a critical error in your intelligence assessment. You assumed that because we appear primitive, we must be weak in reality. In reality, we appear primitive because we've moved beyond the need for the kind of obvious displays of power that your species finds so impressive. We don't build massive warships because we don't need them, Dr. Hartwell explained. We don't construct elaborate weapons because we can accomplish the same goals with a few lines of code. We don't need to conquer other worlds because we've learned to make full use of the resources we already have. But most importantly, Dr. Park added, we don't make threats we can't follow through on. So when we tell you that you need to leave, we mean it. And when we tell you that we have the ability to make you leave, we mean that too. Vex'thul looked around his bridge at his crew. Every alien face reflected the same expression of dawning horror. They had come to conquer what they thought was a primitive world, only to discover that they had stumbled into the territory of a species so advanced that their own technology seemed like stone tools by comparison. How long do we have? He asked quietly. Your ships are already being prepared for departure, Dr. Morrison said. We've taken the liberty of plotting a course back to your home system. Your engines will reactivate in approximately 1 hour, and you'll find that your navigation systems will only accept the coordinates we've provided. 1 hour? Oh, and Commander? Dr. Hartwell's voice stopped him as he started to stand. We'll be monitoring your communications. If you try to warn other Dominion forces about what you've learned here, or if you attempt to return to human space, we'll be forced to take more direct action. What kind of direct action? Dr. Park smiled sweetly. The kind that involves Baby Shark playing on continuous loop throughout your entire fleet until you surrender. Vex'thul shuddered. That's a war crime, is it? Dr. Morrison asked innocently. We'll have to check our legal databases. Our children's rights advocacy group has been arguing that it should be considered a form of cruel and unusual punishment. You're all insane, Vex'thul muttered. Are we? Dr. Hartwell's expression remained perfectly calm. Or are we simply a species that learned to survive by being smarter than our enemies instead of stronger? The communication ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Vex'thul stared at the blank screen, his mind reeling from the implications of what he'd just learned. Everything he thought he knew about the galaxy, about the Dominion's place in it, about the nature of technological advancement itself, had been turned upside down. Sir, Lieutenant Cormas said quietly. What are your orders? Vex'thul looked at his tactical officer, then at the rest of his crew. These beings had followed him across the galaxy, confident in their superiority, certain of their victory. Now they were all trapped in a system controlled by a species that treated their most advanced technology like children's toys. Prepare for departure, he said finally. Signal the fleet. We're going home, sir. What about the invasion? The Dominion Council will demand explanations. Vex'thul's mandibles clicked once, slowly. Tell them the truth. Tell them we encountered a species that was far more advanced than our intelligence indicated. Tell them that any attempt to engage humans in direct conflict would result in the complete destruction of the Dominion. They'll never believe it. Then they'll find out for themselves, Vex'thul said grimly. And when they do, they'll understand why we retreated. As the hour passed and the ship's engines came back online, Vex'thul couldn't shake the feeling that he was missing something important. The humans had been too calm, too confident. They had spoken of their capabilities with the casual air of people discussing the weather, as if the complete subjugation of a galactic empire was just another day at the office. What kind of species had they actually encountered? And what would happen when the Dominion Council inevitably ignored his warnings and sent a larger force to investigate? One thing was certain. The galaxy was about to become a much more dangerous place. And for the first time in his military career, Commander Vex'thul was grateful not to be the one who would have to find out just how dangerous it could become. The Decimator and its escort fleet turned away from Earth, their engines pushing them toward the edge of the system and the long journey home. Behind them, the small blue world continued its peaceful rotation, giving no sign of the technological marvels that lay hidden beneath its deceptively primitive surface. In the depths of space, Other ships were already moving, ships that had been waiting in the darkness between stars, watching, learning, preparing. The humans had been polite in their first contact with the Dominion, but politeness had its limits, and those limits were about to be tested. 3 standard rotations later, the Dominion Council chamber erupted in chaos. Supreme Chancellor Mordak's throat sac pulsed with barely contained fury as he listened to Commander Vex'thul's report. The massive obsidian hall, designed to intimidate lesser species, now felt suffocating to its occupants. "You expect us to believe," Chancellor Mordak's voice dripped with contempt, "that a primitive species somehow defeated our entire battle fleet without firing a single shot?" Vex'thul stood rigidly at attention, his mandibles clicking nervously. "Chancellor, I witnessed their capabilities firsthand. They had complete control over our systems. They could have destroyed us at any moment." "Preposterous." General Kavron slammed his armored fist against the council table. "No species achieves such technological advancement without expanding across the galaxy. We would have detected them centuries ago." "That's exactly what they wanted us to think," Vex'thul insisted. "They've been deliberately maintaining the appearance of a primitive civilization while secretly." "It's enough." Chancellor Mordak's roar echoed through the chamber. "You return empty-handed, spinning tales of invisible fleets and technological impossibilities. Either you're suffering from severe psychological trauma, or you're covering up your own incompetence." Admiral Vex'thul, the Dominion's chief military strategist, leaned forward with interest. "Commander, you mentioned that this Dr. Hartwell served as their spokesperson. What was your assessment of her behavior?" Vex'thul's eyes narrowed as he recalled the encounter. "She was unsettling, Admiral. Completely calm, almost amused. She spoke of our destruction as if it were a minor inconvenience, and there was something else." He paused, his voice dropping to a whisper. "She knew things about our fleet that only high-ranking officers should know. Personal details, tactical preferences, even Admiral Kethvar's private diary entries. Impossible." General Kavron scoffed. "Our security protocols are impenetrable, are they?" Admiral Vex'thul mused. "Commander, describe this Dr. Hartwell more precisely. Her appearance, her mannerisms, any distinguishing features." Vex'thul closed his eyes, trying to remember. "Human female, approximately mid-life cycle. Brown hair, green eyes. She wore simple clothing, nothing ceremonial, but there was something about her voice." He opened his eyes suddenly. "She spoke our language perfectly, not through a translator, but as if she had been speaking it her entire life." The chamber fell silent. Even the most advanced translation systems required noticeable processing delays when dealing with complex grammatical structures. For a primitive species to speak fluent Dominion standard was theoretically impossible. "Admiral," Chancellor Mordak's voice was dangerously quiet. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking," Admiral Vex'thul said slowly, "that we may have encountered something unprecedented." "Commander Vex'thul, during your conversation with this Dr. Hartwell, did she ever claim to be merely a translator?" Vex'thul's mandibles clicked rapidly as he searched his memory. "No, Admiral. She introduced herself as representing their United Earth Council. But now that you mention it, she did seem to know an unusual amount about our language and customs." "Interesting. And she mentioned other human colonies throughout our space?" "Yes, 17 different systems. She spoke of them as if they were established settlements, not recent colonies." Admiral Vex'thul turned to the Council's intelligence chief, Director Zulfen. "Cross-reference all reports of unusual activity in those systems over the past 50 cycles. Look for anything that might indicate hidden populations or advanced technology. Already working on it." "Admiral," Director Zulfen's 6 fingers danced across his console. "Preliminary results are concerning. Multiple systems show evidence of large-scale industrial activity that our surveys attributed to natural phenomena. Energy signatures that we classified as stellar anomalies might actually be artificial." General Kavron's armor plates rattled with agitation. "Even if this is true, 17 systems cannot threaten an empire of 10,000 worlds. We should mobilize the entire fleet and crush them before they can expand further." "With respect, General," Admiral Vex'thul's voice carried a warning edge, "that might be exactly what they're expecting us to do." Commander Vex'thul, you mentioned that they had trapped your fleet in the system. How? They claimed to have something called reality anchors that could prevent faster-than-light travel. At first, I thought it was just psychological warfare, but when we attempted to leave, Vex'thul's voice trailed off. What happened when you attempted to leave? Our engines wouldn't respond. The navigation systems showed critical errors whenever we tried to plot a course away from their predetermined route. It was as if space itself was refusing to let us go anywhere, except where they wanted us to go. The implications hung in the air like a toxic cloud. The ability to manipulate the fundamental constants of physics was theoretical at best, even for the most advanced Dominion scientists. If the humans had actually achieved such technology, the strategic implications were staggering. Director Zulfen, Chancellor Mordak's voice was strained. What else have you found? Chancellor, I've been analyzing communication patterns throughout the sectors Commander Vex'thul mentioned. There are subtle irregularities in our network traffic, almost like someone has been monitoring our transmissions and making minor adjustments to avoid detection. For how long? Based on the data patterns, possibly decades, maybe longer. And the chamber erupted in alarmed chatter. The idea that a supposedly primitive species had been infiltrating their most secure networks for decades was beyond disturbing. It suggested a level of patience and planning that contradicted everything they knew about technological development. In silence, Chancellor Mordak's roar cut through the noise. Admiral Thek's era. I want a full strategic assessment. What are our options? Admiral Thek's era consulted her tactical display. Based on Commander Vex'thul's report, we have 3 possible courses of action. First, we could attempt a massive coordinated assault using our entire fleet. Second, we could try to negotiate some form of containment agreement. Third, she paused, her expression grim, we could formally recognize human space as a sovereign territory and establish non-aggression protocols. The third option is surrender. General Kavron snarled. The Dominion does not negotiate with primitives. The Dominion, Admiral Thexara replied coldly, has never encountered a species capable of taking complete control of our technology without us even noticing. General, if they can infiltrate our networks, disable our weapons, and manipulate our navigation systems, what makes you think a larger fleet would be any more effective? Before General Kavron could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the chamber. Director Zulfen's console lit up with urgent warnings. Chancellor, we're receiving an incoming transmission on all frequencies simultaneously. The signal is bypassing our security protocols entirely. Source unknown. The signal appears to be originating from everywhere at once. Chancellor Mordak's throat sac quivered. Put it through. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing the same modest chamber Commander Vex'thul had described. Dr. Emma Hartwell sat at the simple table, but this time she was alone. Her expression was polite but firm. Greetings, Chancellor Mordak. I apologize for the intrusion, but we felt it was important to address some misconceptions that appear to have arisen from our previous communication. How are you accessing our systems? Chancellor Mordak demanded. The same way we've been accessing them for the past 47 years. Dr. Hartwell replied matter-of-factly. Through the back doors we installed in your communication arrays when you first achieved interstellar travel. Back doors? Oh yes, you see, when a species develops faster than light communication, they inevitably use quantum entanglement principles. Unfortunately. Your scientists never realized that entangled particles can be influenced by sufficiently advanced technology. We've been quietly monitoring galactic communications for decades. Admiral Thexara leaned forward. Monitoring for what purpose? Research, primarily. We find it fascinating how different species approach technological development. The Dominion, for example, has followed a very predictable pattern. Rapid military expansion, resource exploitation, subjugation of less advanced species. It's quite common, actually. You speak as if you've observed this pattern before. Director Zul_Fenn interjected. Dr. Hartwell smiled slightly. Oh, we have. The galaxy is full of species that have followed similar paths. The hegemony of Arcturus, the Vegan Empire, the Centauri Federation, all very impressive in their time. Where are they now? Chancellor Mordak asked, though he dreaded the answer. Extinct, mostly. Or reduced to small enclaves on their homeworlds. The universe has a way of humbling species that become too aggressive. Are you threatening us? Not at all, Chancellor. We're offering you a choice. You can continue your current path and face the same fate as your predecessors, or you can adapt to the new reality. General Cavron's armor clanked as he stood. What new reality? The reality that humans are now the dominant species in this region of the galaxy. We've been building our presence for over 2 centuries, but we've preferred to remain hidden until now. Recent events have forced us to reconsider that policy. 2 centuries? Commander Vex'thul whispered. Actually, Commander, I should thank you. Your invasion attempt provided us with valuable data about Dominion military capabilities. We've been looking for an excuse to test our defensive systems, and you provided the perfect opportunity. Test? Admiral Thixera's voice was sharp. You mean our entire fleet was just a test? A very successful one. We learned that our estimation of Dominion technology was actually too high. We had prepared for a much more challenging opponent. The insult hung in the air like a physical blow. The Dominion's most advanced battle fleet, the pride of their military, had been nothing more than a training exercise for the humans. What do you want from us? Chancellor Mordak's voice was barely audible. Nothing complicated. We want you to update your territorial maps to reflect current realities. We want you to cease all military operations in systems containing human populations. And we want you to establish formal diplomatic relations with the United Earth Council. And if we refuse, Dr. Hartwell's expression remained perfectly calm. Then we'll be forced to take more direct action. We've identified 17 major Dominion military installations that are currently experiencing mysterious technical difficulties, power fluctuations, communication blackouts, navigation errors. Very unfortunate. Director Zulfen's fingers flew across his console. Chancellor, I'm receiving reports of system failures at multiple installations. Starbase Omega-7, the Kepler Defense Grid, the Vega shipyards, all reporting critical malfunctions. How is this possible? General Cavron demanded. The same way we took control of Commander Vex'thul's fleet, Dr. Hartwell explained patiently. We've been inside your systems for so long that we know them better than you do. Every ship, every station, every communication array has been compromised. This is an act of war. No, General. This is a demonstration. An act of war would involve actually damaging your installations rather than simply inconveniencing them. We could have destroyed your entire fleet at any time. We chose not to. Why? Because we're not monsters, General. We don't believe in unnecessary violence. We prefer to solve problems through negotiation and mutual understanding. Admiral Thixera studied the human carefully. Dr. Hartwell, you mentioned that you've been studying galactic civilizations for decades. What have you learned? That most species follow predictable patterns. They develop technology, expand aggressively, encounter resistance, and eventually face extinction or stagnation. The few that survive long-term learn to adapt and coexist. And you believe the Dominion can learn to coexist? We hope so. The alternative would be unpleasant for everyone involved. Chancellor Mordak's throat sac had completely deflated. What are your terms? Simple. Formal recognition of human sovereignty over our established territories. Establishment of trade agreements based on mutual benefit rather than exploitation. And, most importantly, agreement to resolve future conflicts through negotiation rather than military action. And in return? In return, we'll share some of our less sensitive technologies, clean energy systems, medical advances, agricultural improvements, things that could significantly improve life for Dominion citizens. You would share your technology with us? After we invaded your world? Dr. Hartwell's expression softened slightly. Dr. Hartwell, every species goes through a phase of aggressive expansion. It's part of the natural development process. The question is whether they can learn to move beyond that phase And if we agree to these terms, then we'll begin the process of establishing formal diplomatic relations. Our ambassadors will work with your government to develop frameworks for peaceful coexistence. Ambassadors? Oh yes. We've had diplomatic staff in place throughout Dominion space for years. They've been operating under deep cover, but they're ready to reveal themselves when the time is right. Chancellor Mordak looked around the chamber at his advisors. Every face reflected the same mixture of shock, fear, and grudging respect. They had been outmaneuvered so completely that resistance seemed pointless. We need time to consider your proposal, of course. You have 72 hours to provide your response. After that, we'll assume you've chosen the alternative path. What alternative path? The same one chosen by the hegemony of Arcturus, the Vegan Empire, and the Centauri Federation. The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Chancellor Mordak stared at the blank screen, his mind reeling from the implications of what he'd just heard. "Admiral," he said finally, "your honest assessment. Can we win a war against these humans?" Admiral Thex Ares' response was immediate and unequivocal. "No, Chancellor. Based on what we've learned, attempting to fight them would be suicide. They have technological superiority, strategic superiority, and they've been preparing for this confrontation for decades. Then we have no choice. We have a choice." Admiral Thex _era corrected. "We can choose to adapt and survive, or we can choose to fight and face extinction. The choice is ours." Chancellor Mordak looked around the chamber one final time. The greatest military power in the galaxy, reduced to choosing between surrender and annihilation. It was humbling beyond measure. "Prepare a response accepting their terms," he said quietly, "and may the ancestors forgive us for what we've brought upon ourselves." As the council dispersed, Commander Vex'thul remained behind, staring at the view screen. He thought about Dr. Emma Hartwell, the unassuming human who had somehow orchestrated the peaceful conquest of a galactic empire. She had been introduced as a translator, but she had proven to be something far more dangerous. She had been the voice of a species that had learned to wage war without fighting, to conquer without violence, to achieve victory through patience and intelligence rather than brute force. And in the end, that had made all the difference. 3 days later, the Dominion formally recognized human sovereignty over 47 star systems and established the first interspecies diplomatic protocols in galactic history. The age of human expansion through conquest was over. The age of human influence through cooperation had begun. And somewhere in a modest office on Earth, Dr. Emma Hartwell filed her final report and prepared for the next phase of humanity's quiet revolution. The galaxy would never be the same, but perhaps, she thought, that was exactly what it needed. After all, she had never been just a translator. She had always been something far more important. She had been the voice of change itself.